So I've been thinking a lot lately about school and how we can really improve outcomes for kids. And that really is the basis of my work. And whether I'm working with teachers, principals, schools, or districts, it's really about building pedagogical capacity to prepare kids with not just the skills, the knowledge, but the mindset, the competencies to be successful. But as we think about what we want our kids to do, we want our kids to be able to think. We want to move our kids up to the highest levels of knowledge taxonomy. We want them to create, evaluate, analyze, apply. So we want them to think, and we know what those buzzwords are. But we also want them to apply their thinking in ways that are relevant, that they're not only showing high levels of conceptual mastery, but they're using that new knowledge, constructing new knowledge, and applying it in ways that mean something to them. But as we work inside out, as we look at thinking, knowledge taxonomy, build that out to the verbs, to the products, I think we have to pay a little more attention to the outcomes that we want in our learners. And lately, I've really thought about my shift from the public sector to the private sector. And as I think about what I now do in the private sector as a consultant, thought leader, it really gives me a new perspective as to what our kids need. So I want to go over 6 elements that are essential to my job now in the private sector and think about how as schools we can better prepare our kids to be competent in these areas. For one, I have to be a creative thinker. When we think about creative thinkers, these are people who think creatively by generating and exploring ideas to make original connections. They then try to tackle problems, working with others to find imaginative solutions and outcomes that are of value. I have to be a creative thinker and show how my work differentiates from the competition and puts me in a position where schools, districts, and organizations want to have me speak. Let's think about reflective learners. Element number 2, reflective learners evaluate strengths and limitations. They setting themselves realistic goals with criteria for success. Reflective learners monitor performance and progress, invite feedback from others, and make changes to further their learning. When we think about reflection, I got to reflect every day and think about not only what I did well, but what I can do better to be the best iteration of myself, to grow and improve. It's not about chasing perfection. There is no perfection in virtually anything we do. Don't chase perfection, chase growth. The best way to chase growth is to be a reflective learner. Number 3, team workers. Oh my goodness, team workers work confidently with others. They adapt to different contexts. They take responsibility for their own part. They listen and take into account the different views of others. And they form collaborative relationships, resolving issues to agreed outcomes. As I think about the team that I have to work with, it's not just the districts and schools that I collaborate. I got to work with a team that spans divisions across the entire world. So in order to be effective at what we do in the real world, we have to be effective team workers. Number 4, self-managers. Self-managers organize themselves. They show personal responsibility, initiative, creativity, and enterprise with a commitment to learning and self-improvement. They actively embrace change, responding positively to new priorities, coping with challenges, and looking for opportunities. My office is basically in front of me. It is my computer. I have to manage my own time. I'm not told to clock in or clock out. I got to get the work done. If I'm going to be traveling abroad, I got to schedule meetings and collaborate with the organization or the schools in different time zones that might not be preferable for me. But ultimately, I'm accountable to getting the work done. And I think for our kids, not only teaching them how to be self-managers is a competency that will only benefit them going further. Number 5, effective participators. Oh my goodness, effective participators. They actively engage with issues that affect them and those around them. They play a full part in the life of whether it's school, college, workplace, or wider community by taking responsible action to bring improvements for others as well as themselves. I think about again, I'm on a lot of online meetings. face-to-face meetings. I can't just be a dud. I need to be a participator. I got to show that I'm present. I got to give feedback. I got to ask questions. And as we think about effective participators, again, think about how we are building that competency in our kids in schools. And then finally, number 6, independent inquirers. These are the ability to process, evaluate information, investigations, planning what to do and to actually go about it, taking informed, well-reasoned decisions, recognizing that others have different beliefs and attitudes. So we have to consistently look at not just how we can be a creative thinker, which was number 1, but how we can continue to ask questions and find answers to those questions. So as I look at all of these elements, creative thinkers, reflective learners, team workers, self-managers, effective participators, independent inquirers, this is what is pivotal for success in the real world, in the private sector. Having a lens going from public to private has really changed my view on all this. But my question is to all of you. How is your classroom, school, district, or organization helping develop kids into creative thinkers, reflective learners, team workers, self-managers, effective participators, and independent inquirers? Knowing that these competencies will allow every single learner to ultimately strive for success in a variety, almost any position that we can imagine now or positions that are created in the future. Think about how well you do that and think about where there are opportunities for growth.